Hey, money healers. So, two of our most precious resources are money and time. And we often think we trade one for another or buy more of one with the other. It's a very linear viewpoint. But what if we look at both time and money as cyclical experiences and resources? Could our relationship with time even become spacious, even liberating? Today's guest, Becca Rich, is a holistic time coach and self described money disruptor. Becca brings a rare blend of systems thinking, somatic wisdom, and spiritual depth to the way we think about time, productivity, and rest. Becca helps folks unravel the survival strategies that keep us overworking, overscheduling, and disconnected from our actual needs, especially for those of us navigating neurodivergence, capitalism, and creative work. You can find more about her work at theholistictimecoach.com. In this conversation, Becca and I explore what time and money have in common when we look at them cyclically, why seasonal planning can feel safer than strict schedules, and we even hammer out some ideas on building a life that doesn't hinge on, quote, earning your rest. I do want to give you a heads up. We have a gentle conversation about menstruation and body-based timekeeping, so feel free to skip this or lean in, depending on what's right for you today. Quick reminder that the Money Healing Club podcast is educational in nature and never takes the place of mental health care, financial, tax, or legal advice. Please reach out to a licensed professional for your situation. So, let's talk about what we don't usually say when we talk about time with Becca Rich. Okay, Becca, we started this conversation with each of our niches. I talk about money healing, you talk about time healing, and we started talking about it's really about cycles. How we look at both of these things. And when we think cycles, when you think cycles, what is it? Let's expand this somewhere.
Yeah, cycles are. I literally have a tattoo of a cycle on my rib cage. I have the beautiful nautilus shell, and it's such a beautiful image just in general to remind ourselves that things don't happen in the way that our brain or our society typically thinks or believes about money and time. I'm laughing at our notes too because we put the connection of money and time with musical properties, and now we're both what is that?
Maybe we meant rhythm or speed.
But it really is music is cyclical. You can listen to a song on repeat over and over and over again. I definitely do that sometimes. And every single time you listen to it, you maybe hear a different lyric, or you hear the same lyric, or you hear different chords. And now that I'm thinking about spirals or cyclical nature of just life, we're constantly evolving, and we're constantly we're spinning on this planet around everything around us. The seasons, history repeats itself. Things are coming in and then going out.
And do you think then what is the balance of the finite nature? There's also a finite nature of our lived experiences as well as money. There's at the same time we're reconciling the limited, or not limited, but the bookends of it, because there are bookends. We all earned our first dollar at some point. It did begin, right?
But also, I think of a microscope. I'm thinking a microscope, when with finiteness, you just take that chunk, or you just zoom in on that little piece, because your parents birthed you before and they made their first dollar, and where has that dollar been? And so it's not just about us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cycle connects all of us to each other, right? What do you think about that?
Even if we were to take, okay, that first dollar I earned at some point was, let's say it was spent, right? I bought this shirt, or, I bought bubble gum, right? And then where that went, and it's this little droplet that then went into the economy, right? Which is very much a lot of the metaphors about water and flow really do work with the economy, right? And then there it went, and there it flowed. It never stopped existing, even though I don't possess it anymore. That dollar, actually, this is a huge fun idea. Like that dollar still exists, right? My first babysitting
It's
dollar.
somewhere.
Yeah, the first babysitting dollar I made when I was 11 is still out there. Maybe it's even come
Yeah.
through my account. I don't know. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like then even dollars being created is used to be trees, is used to be paper, is used to be all these things that, yeah, it never truly begins or ends in my experience. I don't like unless you want to get spiritual about it. Where does everything start?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And what does ending mean? I like what you're saying is like, well, yeah, if you zoom in like micro, that it's finite, but really just like when you think about it or talk to someone smart like Becca, it's like, oh no, it's not finite. That's a really fun thing to think about. And I think, one thing that some of my clients, I think we get a little bit caught up with, I mean, my bias, I'm always going to talk about money, but like, it's like, oh, well, if I spend it, it will come back to me. And sometimes there is a bit of magical thinking that can get muddy. And I'm not quite sure. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I do think we can get a
Yes.
little bit too up here, where also, like, both time and money are very real things. I think
Yeah.
this is what we wanted to talk about is like they are resources. And if we start thinking they're that magical, where do you like take that conversation? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think a lot of things. I'm curious, like you first. Like how do you reconcile sort of like this balance between society and norms kind of like that's kind of what I'm hearing and then this more like spiritual, more belief kind of space.
I mean, I think there's a lot of guilt spending. And I think where I feel like, oh, I want to, support causes or support businesses I believe in. That's great. But sometimes, feeling like, oh, I'm being generous, I'm being supportive, and I'm using my dollars for that in a way that like is leaving my future less safe. I do think sometimes the folks that I work with often overgive out of a sense of obligation, out of a sense of duty, out of a sense of guilt. Like, I'm a person in this world, I want to be supporting these things where money is one way to support those things, and I do think if we're considering these precious resources, there's a lot of resources. I could give my time to an organization. I could give my connections to an organization. Like money is one choice. I just feel like, the folks like us who read the news and I see my privilege and I want to help others and it comes from such a good place. I don't know. It's like short term, long term. I don't have a clear answer to it other than, I think if we're like, well, if I give it away, it will come back to me. I just like, well, wait, hang on a second. Because sometimes we give it away and we don't allow it to come back to us, or we don't actually make the plan for it to come back to us and just hope that it does. That's just like not always the way it works.
Yeah. I love it. Lots of thoughts. There I think about like the body as like this midpoint or like this like kind of gauge. And what came up as you were speaking is how we approach money is often how we approach time, vice versa, right? And so if we overgive in money, we often overgive in time in some ways. And the body tells us the real answer of like if we're overgiving in either direction. And so if you're spending and then I kind of think that this kind of going on a separate tangent a little bit, but they connect, I'll connect them. This thought of if I give, it'll come back. It can kind of gaslight us sometimes. Like, I feel like it's a little gaslighty.
That's the word. Thank you. Thank you. It is kind of gaslighty because also how our capitalist society is actually money is getting vacuumed up by the rich.
Right. And that is kind of what's happening in
What's happening. Yeah.
the world, right? And so as the rich accumulates more and more wealth, that means in our capitalist society as well that they're accumulating time often in ways, right? They can buy labor so then they don't have to spend their time doing a whole bunch of stuff that us everyday people do. Like the solution or the way forward is to let your body tell you what is enough to give, both in money and time. Because it is a cycle, like yes, money does flow back, yes, time does flow back, but it's because we're not in like a perfect linear world, it might not flow back in the exact amount that you put out.
Right.
Like no one guarantees that.
Right. And if you're the kind of person, oh, I'm a giver, then you also might be blocked for opportunities to receive and not get it back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't know. Do I believe that? Like,
Checking in with the body.
I have a lot of hard times with like spiritual law of attraction-y kind of things, you know? And that's kind of why I thought that the other sentiment of like, if what you give, you get back is gaslighty. I think often it's not either or. It's not this binary
No.
of like, and you know, I know you know this, but it's so easy to like, because time and money are so linear in our world, it's easy to approach them in this binary way. And so, yeah.
And I think it
I
can
don't
go
know.
far on the other scale. You know, we talk about like there's money hoarding, which is like, you know, holding it all and having so much anxiety and not, you know, being so afraid to let any of it go, which is another form of financial trauma. And, you know, that rigidity also doesn't allow for the softness of some mobility. I do think, you know, I've heard like money wants to move, but I don't think that means it wants to move out of your account. Like actually, like money does want to move and exist and support you. And I think, you know, it doesn't want to be locked. I have found like when I'm relating to money as its own sort of personality, it wants to be there, it wants to support, it wants to be creative, and sometimes that means outflow, and sometimes it means inflow, and sometimes it means moving with it around within what you've got. I just see it as actually pretty flexible. And so I think we can go to either extreme where, oh, it just flows through my fingertips, or, you know, I get anxious when there's money left in my account and I just have to spend it. That's one end. And the other end is like, I won't let myself, you know, buy a new pair of socks. And I've seen it all, like those extremes and everything in between. And really, it's sort of expressions of not honoring or of looking at like money as energy. And maybe that's a way to think of it as like a resource, like energy. And maybe you keep some, you give some, you maintain it, you tend to it. I mean, the metaphor I love is actually a garden. I think the gardening metaphor works really well for that, right? You don't give away all your
And
produce.
right. And gardens are cyclical
Yeah.
in nature, you know? I'm a farmer, so I'm really in tune with like I'm really in tune with it. And you know, I sometimes on the farm when we can't get around to picking the beans because they take so long and it's so hot and you know, there's biting flies and all this stuff and my husband actually has to remind me sometimes that it's not a waste because it goes back to the earth.
Yeah.
And that like always like, ugh.
That's really
I'm like, okay, if I don't get to everything that we need, like the earth, either way, the earth is here to take care of it. It'll take it.
Yeah, there's a law that it can like exist on its own and you can do some tending. And also you have some shit years. Like that's very much the economy. You can also put seeds in the ground and do all your best effort. And like if we think about investing, and then, you know, we have a recession or we have a downturn, and that's very much the weather. And, you know, but if you keep at it, you keep going in this longer game, if you look back up and look at how you might be building like a landscape or a garden, there are, you know, great years and downturns, but actually all in all, it will continue to grow. And so I think about that a lot with how to think of investments. You know, and these seeds and the way you tend to it and the way you pay attention. And some things are going to go okay on their own and some things you do need to tend to and deal with, right? You've got an infestation, you have to deal with it, right?
Convulse.
Right? You've got an overdraft, you have to deal with it. Like magical thinking is not going to help with that.
Yeah.
There's a stewardship with money that I feel very strongly about, that I've come to in my money healing journey. I feel like a steward of my own money.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about like sort of coming out of like a denial around both money and time, like coming and being honest with yourself about where it's going, what you're doing with it, how it's feeling, like on a granular level and a macro bigger level.
I really do. I mean, I think it's funny. We laugh about like, oh, is that a tomorrow me problem or a future me problem? Or future me will deal with that. Or, next month is going to be better. And I really understand it, right? It's like, are we saying that things are just overwhelming at this moment because all we can do is this moment? I'm saying I can't right now. There's also like, I don't know, in the club we talk about like fantasy self. Like, oh, did I buy that for me or did I buy that for the version of me that I would like to be or I thought I could be? There's an honesty there also about who are you now? Like, do you wear sundresses every day or are you a person who buys a lot of sundresses? Like, those are different things. And so, there's a little bit of that fantasy going on, a little magical, thinking, I'm the kind of person who wears these dresses every day. I'm like, well, is that aspirational? Is that something you really do right now? And I do think there's this honesty for sure. Yeah, how does that come up for you and your clients with time? Like, are we kind of talking about like, what are we putting off? What's in our capacity right now?
Yeah. I mean, the download that I just got is that like approaching, I think both these resources, but approaching anything in a linear way makes us less honest because anything linear is a lie. It's neglecting our true nature.
Wow. Yeah.
And so when we think about, I'm going to stick with time, but also applies to money. When we think about like, I'll do that next week or I'll do that tomorrow or a future me problem, we do the same, like we're lying to ourselves and then we're unrealistic and then we take it personally and then it becomes like a personal wound, like a self-worth kind of like identity, ego wound.
Right. I'm crap with
Like,
money. I can't plan my day.
I'm bad with money.
Yes. I can't, yeah, I've got time blindness, all of that stuff. Gosh,
Yeah, we take it so personally when we've just been taught or like how to approach both these resources with linear scarcity and rigidity and meanness. Like we're so mean to ourselves. Like we punish ourselves. I think believing that both these resources are linear is like the original sin, the original lie. And then from there, because we think about these things in this way, then we rush, we push things off, we try to hoard, we feel like failures. I think it kind of like spawns out into all of these symptoms of just thinking about this in a capitalist way.
Wow, that's really profound. I have to really digest that. I think that's true. Especially it's like, okay, do I really not have the capacity to call the bank today? Fair. So it's not necessarily a tomorrow me problem, but do I have will I put in a rhythm in my week, in my whatever makes sense for me, in my cycle, in my month, whatever, where that tending is going to happen. Like it's the pulling the weeds. Like when am I going to pull the weeds? I mean, how would you talk with someone about that? Right. Let's say that's okay. Let's come up with an example where we're talking about someone who like, I don't know, there's a false charge on their account or something. They need to like call a bank, right? Worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I have no interest in doing this, but it really needs to happen.
Making phone calls are the worst.
Absolutely the worst thing. Right. Okay. So we've got a client who has to make a fucking phone call to deal with something. Let's say it's kind of high stakes. Let's say there's like a $200 charge that they really don't think was theirs. Okay. How do we talk with someone to decapitalize time and money to support this person in stewarding their money? What would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I always start with self. And so it's like we have to tend to our own mental, emotional well-being to then be able to do the thing that we want or need to do. That's always like where I start. I have like this whole process called following through gently. And within that, like any of the resistance that we have to doing a thing, like all it needs is for us to talk gently and passionately to it.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean like one of the biggest things that people think is talking gently means that it's a pass. And that's not what I mean, right? I really truly mean like some sort of middle space between like accountability and boundaries that is gentle, like that is loving, that is encouraging. So yeah, like starting with that is key. Like if you're struggling to call the bank or whatever, like have compassion about that if you did spend that, or have compassion with yourself if you're struggling to make the time to call the bank, or you're feeling behind and you should have done it weeks ago, or like any of those messaging. It is immediately soothed and solved the moment that you speak gently to yourself.
I love that I'm already like having this inner dialogue, like kind of using an internal family systems, like, oh yeah, you're really nervous that this isn't gonna go well here. Oh, you're nervous of being criticized. Oh, you're nervous this is
Yeah.
gonna turn into maybe a bigger deal than you think. I understand that, right? This is how you talk to a child. I
Yep.
just this morning, my kids are starting a new week at summer camp. One of them was feeling shaky about it, was gonna miss us, and all I could say is, I know you're gonna miss, mama and papa. How about, we get you a stuffy? And, that is how it's boundaried, but it's gentle. And it's that I see
Yep.
you. What supports can we put in place? And yeah, just receiving those words really gently. Yeah. And even like normally, this kind of sucks.
Acknowledging.
Totally validating and acknowledging it. Chances are good this is going to get resolved. Hey, let's dance to disco music after this is all done, right? Like that's how you would talk to a child. Like, okay, this kind of sucks. Let's get
Yeah.
through it. We're going to celebrate. You can do this, right? You're a
Yeah.
person in this world who has to deal with a fucking bank. Okay.
You're not alone.
Not
I'm so with you.
alone. We've all done it. And usually the person on the other side of the phone is doing the best they can, not judgmental of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, already just
Yeah.
like hearing that and saying those words to myself, I'm like, yeah, just do it. If that's the
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
And that's what happens like somatically in our bodies when we do that. Then we get a surge of energy and motivation that overcomes that hump of resistance to starting a thing or doing a thing.
So do you feel, is this
So,
how like, are we talking about procrastination when that comes up? Like, is that who we're talking
well, I don't
about?
believe in procrastination.
Say more. Say more. Another lie.
Uh,
Another lie.
yeah, procrastination implies that we're lazy, that we're bad, that we're wrong, that we're not motivated enough, or like all of these implications. And there is a reason why we do things and why we don't do things. And so if you're not doing a thing, what society will call procrastination, and then you believe that all of the really implications of what that means, versus just being honest and compassionate with yourself and saying like, I'm really tired, or I have, I don't have the access to the right resources to call the bank. Maybe my phone isn't working, or like any reason. Maybe I have to watch my kid. Like I don't have childcare. There's so many reasons why we do and don't do things. And so I don't want to like just sort of like get rid of and erase all of those real reasons and just like lump it in as this like moral label of badness.
Totally comes back to that gentle self-talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like validating the parts of you that feel, afraid or avoidant. Because that's a big theme that comes up with me and my clients is like, oh, I've been avoiding it. I'm money avoidant. And which I will challenge. I don't think that exists either. Like, it sounds like this is dysregulating for you. And so not doing it has been protective.
Yeah.
Like that it is a choice. It's not really the not doing. And there are, emotional and very practical implications of that. Okay, totally. We can't get in the time machine. Let's see what we can do now. And yeah, love ourselves through the process. Avoidance is like sometimes a very reasonable choice given whatever, like you said, like this particular context. If we can
Yeah.
though have this sort of inner dialogue though about it, then we're going to actually reach some healing. Because if we don't
Yeah.
have the inner dialogue, if we are avoiding stuff or whatever, then it kind of it's this open wound. But if we can
Yeah.
actually listen in, oh yeah, I'm avoiding that. I can just name that. Yeah, I am. Okay. Right?
Just being honest and compassionate.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. I know. That's so funny.
And then
One of my first financial therapy clients said, like, God damn it, always comes back to self-love. Isn't that annoying? I'm like, I know. I wish there was a different answer, but there just isn't. I wish there was a different answer.
there is a different answer,
Ooh.
actually.
Okay.
There's two, I think.
Okay.
But did you want to finish what you were saying? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I kind of got into this, I'm a therapist, but I also like money stuff. I'll help people with the practical things. That's kind of like how I entered into this, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, oh no, it actually all circles back to compassion, to healing, to relationships, like all of that. I mean, self-love, I don't think really encapsulates it, but like, it's like, oh, I wish there were a different answer, but it really all roads lead back to that, to get to a healed place with any of this stuff. Because it's not like, oh, I need to make a budget first and then I'll deal with the emotions with money. Like, then you're never
Have
going
fun trying to make a budget.
have fun trying to make a budget and you're never going to get to the healing part. Like, no, that doesn't quite work that way. Yeah. What are the other two ways?
Well, I think so. This is one of the ways. And then what is super interconnected with it is being a certified holistic practitioner. We think about internal and external. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something that the coaching industry misses, the self-care industry misses completely, is the external. And, we have acknowledged that capitalism and all these other systems of oppression impact our money and our time. So when we approach both of these resources just as the internal, like, oh, you just need to love yourself more, I think that can be spurred as like gaslighting. Totally. I don't want to speak to money necessarily because I have my own stuff with money, but with time as well, people are like, oh, just telling everybody to time block or to do a Pomodoro session, and it whittles everything down to hacking. And I think that that's probably similar to budgeting or like any of the money hacks, right? Without acknowledging that maybe someone doesn't have childcare. Maybe someone has like a ton of debt, a ton of loans. They can't afford health insurance, like all of these things that the systems that are external to us that are supposed to be our safety net and to take care of us as individuals and society, that is completely missing in most of the conversations, right?
No, that's totally true. And yeah, and even like as I say self-love, like I don't love it because you're right, it's so individualistic.
It misses it.
Go read a book and have some self-love. I do think a lot of it is about receiving love and community. And that's why like a place like the Money Healing Club, while some people are like, I would never bring my money stuff to a community or a club, that's okay. I do honor that. But the people who do make that brave step, see so much more growth because they're linking arms, because this is not an individual thing. And, sometimes we're hard on ourselves, sometimes we're assholes to ourselves, and we need relationships to actually reflect back to us the love, that we need to remind us of our humanity. So no, I'm glad you said that because it gets out of even like the therapy sphere where I was trained, although we definitely had like a social justice aspect too. It's like, oh, well, the purpose of the one-on-one therapy is to reflect the client back to them, their own, their self, their true self and their goodness, which is great. That's why relationally that works. But it's also very compartmentalized, like, oh, this can only be spoken here. And yeah, we actually like part of financial activism is simply talking about money with more people.
Yeah.
Right. And making this a little more of an open thing.
Yeah. I think it's so easy to become linear in these resources. It's really easy to become individualistic with these resources. And so that's another maybe original sin, original lie, is that it's individual. And I think the solution is to do your best to be gentle with yourself and to take care of yourself and to love on yourself. And then it's also one of the best ways that I love on myself is sharing what I'm experiencing with others, like you said, being in relationship and community, and then also like protesting and fighting for our rights to exist or to have our lives sort of taken care of by the people that are supposed to take care of it, our governments,
Join in and speak up. Absolutely. Yeah. We have theme months in the club, and the theme for July is financial activism, and it can be moving your money to a credit union. It could be simply like activism doesn't have to look like taking to the streets. Yeah, it can be, obviously making sure you're registered to vote. I mean, I know sometimes that seems like so little, but no, these are big, and sometimes you have the bandwidth for that. Sometimes you have bandwidth for more.
Yeah.
And I do think it's the time to reflect on that. Actually, I'll just recommend everyone the Financial Activist Playbook by Jasmine Rashid. Pick it up. It will give you what you need. If you feel shitty about capitalism, Jasmine will help you through it. And she was on my podcast a little while back. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a beautiful example of sharing other people's work and resources and their own time and labor and life force that they've put into creating things. One of the ways that we can also deconstruct, looking at these resources in an individualistic or linear way.
It's so true. Becca, maybe we could break out a little kind of example from both of our, perspectives. For folks who menstruate, which is one of the, it's a real obvious cycle that those of us who menstruate, live through, and also the lunar cycle for folks who don't menstruate. And I was sort of like brainstorming with the 4 phases, and I know I have my thoughts, but do you want to kind of like workshop, like, okay, at the different phases of the menstrual cycle, like what are some good ways to approach those phases?
Yeah, I think the sort of canvas for this is like the cyclical time, and then in with the lens that we can talk about, because you can use those 4 different distinct sort of phases for anything.
True.
But
That's so true.
like,
And actually, there's this model in art therapy of the mandala. And it's like it starts at source, and there's beginnings, there's growth, there's identity, there's falling apart, and there's regeneration. And that happens in a minute, it happens in a year, it happens in a life cycle, it happens in an organization. And so we can really take all of this. Well, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. We have follicular, ovulation, luteal, menstrual, right? That's
yeah.
how I think of them. Okay.
And I actually start with menstrual, and
Okay.
I don't know
True.
if people, I think that's day 1, right?
Yeah, 'cause
Like
it's day
when you
1.
bleed. Yeah.
No, you're totally
Okay,
right.
cool.
Yeah, let's do that because it's also just a clear day 1. It doesn't mean it starts there. Okay, so when we
Yeah.
think of someone in the menstrual phase, what are you thinking about? Let's just describe that time, as we all probably know, but let's put some words to it.
We all have different experiences
For
of
sure.
that.
For sure.
But for me personally, the specific days of bleeding anyways, it changes for me. And the first like 2 days or 3 days is like really crampy and just like blah and not enough energy, and it's easier to be harder on myself. Like my inner critic will rear its head a lot stronger during that time as well. What about you?
Yeah, I find an overwhelming urge to walk into a mountain cave and have no one talk to me. It's a real downward time, a real inward quiet time, not really wanting to be social, just a geared down. Sometimes some anxiety comes up, but I think that's more of an outside thing, like, oh, I should be productive. I feel like I'm 45, so I'm also perimenopausal, which means I go through this now every 20 days. So that's really interesting, where it's like a lot more often than it used to be and a little more emotional. But I don't know if it's more emotional or I'm just more in tune and I'm honoring it instead of blocking it. Maybe a little bit of both. But yeah, I feel like it's such a good time for the cosmic download. Such a good time to like just receive, be low, be a little dark, think spooky thoughts. And I think a lot about the other phases are all about supporting that time. Like what I would want to know is during that time, things are getting paid automatically, things are getting transferred automatically. Like I have kind of put things in place so that that time is supported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always do, and this is maybe going backwards a little bit, but it's important. I always do like my monthly bookkeeping and paying everything off and paying myself the like day or 2 before I get my cycle, so then I can actually rest and I can do nothing because I'm like, okay, I'm safe, I'm good, like all is well.
Which is part, doesn't that make sense? Like I think Kate Northrup said, like, have your luteal list. The tasky shit, it's perfect when you're in the luteal phase. And it really is like preparing your nest so that you can rest. Yeah, I love that. And I mean, it could be a good time to like pick up something like The Art of Money if you want to be reflective about it. But I wouldn't try to be productive about it, because I think when you trust a cycle, it's like, I know that folliculars come in next. Don't worry about it. I have come to trust myself in a week, that's going to be a better time to have energy for things or something like that.
And that's because your brain acknowledges for over 30 plus years, 30-ish years, that this cycle keeps going. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the key, you asked earlier, like, how can we approach these things in a more cyclical way, is giving your brain evidence that the cycle continues.
I love that, yeah.
I love reading Braining Sweetgrass, and I love any indigenous wisdom that talks about the United States before it was the United States. And I love talking to grandparents. I have a 90-something-year-old woman in this community that I love talking to. I love playing pickleball because I talk to all the people that are like, I protested the Vietnam War, and they get it. They get that time keeps moving, and so it doesn't feel like an emergency right here. I can't rest, or I can't do what I need and want to do because the cycle continues. So yeah.
Totally. Trusting yourself, trusting the cycles. I know me, usually a good night's sleep pretty much solves any of my problems. You just get to a point where you just know this stuff. And the more I learned about menstrual cycles too, that really helped me oh yeah, that does all make sense. Because I think, the dominant thing is consistency is key, which is the biggest lie of all. Who here is consistent? Who wants to be consistent? What interesting person has ever been consistent?
Also, life would be so boring if I woke up every single day at 8 a.m. and ate at 9 a.m. and the same thing every day. You'd forget your life.
Right. And I actually think, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but I do think especially when clients come to me I just need to be consistent with myself. Do you mean you want to build your self-trust? Do you mean you want to feel safer? I think that's actually what you mean, because I don't think consistency, you don't want that.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Or, it could be semantics, procrastination is consistency is just doing things when you want and need to do them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you really know what you want and need to do, you're honest, you're in tune with yourself, in tune with the cycles, and you acknowledge it and you do your best.
And you're not doing it on your own. How about? That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not this solo cowboy adventure. So we come out of menstrual phase. Next comes the follicular phase, which, if is menstruating, is where the walls are being built up and the egg is getting ready to be released. And so it's very much the spring, right? Kind of menstrual side is the phase is the winter, and follicular is the spring. Once this was taught to me, I really get it. It is the time you want to start things, right? You kind of have this newness, this maybe kind of younger energy. And I just jotted down a few notes, it's a good time for researching a new job, or, setting up a new account, or learning a budget app. You tend to have more capacity to get into something ambiguous and have the energy to get through it. Do that thing you meant to do, before, that kind of thing, joining something. That it's a really good time to be starting. Any other thoughts about that phase?
Yeah. I mean, in the context of the external, we're addicted to this phase. This is where we feel unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah. We're why can't it always be like this?
Yeah. Yeah. This is where we're unrealistic.
I love that.
This is where we could set ourselves up for failure.
Well, it just leads up to ovulation. Why can't we be like that all the time? That's the real superhero phase, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. But I think with ovulation, I think of summer, and summer is the time where you're actually less doing in a way, and you're more social, and you're more out there, versus the follicular, where I feel it's more internal but productive. You're still doing stuff.
And we think about, follicular is probably 10 to 14 days, something like that, right?
Yeah.
A third of your month. You cannot expect to be like that forever. You can't sprint a marathon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to actually plan somewhere in my luteal or my menstrual phase for what I want to do, because I'm tired and I don't feel like doing much. And so when I do that, and I recommend this to a lot of folks, is to plan then. So then when you're in follicular ovulation or the higher kind of like energy periods, you actually get it all done
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot.
instead of planning when you have energy and you are unrealistic.
But it's, yeah, I think you're right. It's the time of biting off more than you can chew. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, and then ovulation is kind of the summer, like you said. It's a shorter time, and that is when, if you're menstruating, you're the most fertile. And it's so interesting. You literally are more attractive to people. You tend to feel like just more confident, right? And you're kind of like, the new me, right? You want to be with people, people want to be with you, right? Like all of that. I find it a very, very powerful phase. And that's a good one to like, yeah, book that interview or, if you're involved in sales at all, that's a good time for that kind of thing, kind of the crest of the energy, right? The crest of that wave of energy.
Yeah. And I think when you say that, I think that it's really easy, again, to forget about that time isn't linear. I'm thinking of when you're interviewing or if you have sales calls, like people do struggle to block out the other times of the month
Yeah.
from doing those things. And so this isn't prescriptive. Like, obviously, you do you, whatever, if you want to do that during those times. But that's the reason why we struggle to do the other things, is because we're so focused on doing the more high priority or revenue generating activities that we forget about the admin and we forget about the other stuff that's equally important for bringing revenue in or making money or taking care of yourself, all of it.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Right, which actually brings us to the luteal phase, which is more of the autumn, the harvest, kind of preparing the nest. For me, I almost like feel this like it's like like the energy just comes like and then we're done. And not full on, but like a little bit like I don't really want to do things. I feel like a little person. I get in my cave and I just want to like read a lot and I kind of take care of a lot of the things that I wasn't doing because I was being super social the week before. But yeah, I update my bookkeeping. It's like good for tasky shit, I find. And also to what do I need to close the loop on? What did I start a few weeks ago that really warrants being closed or finished? And it feels really good. I find that like when I complete things in the luteal phase, it feels really right. Like often, like it feels because I'm preparing myself. So it's not like lingering when I'm menstruating. So yeah, I find it's good for like, yeah, filling out paperwork, things like that. And thinking a little ahead of like good time to kind of think about some systems. What are some automations? What are some things I can put in place so that I can trust that things are running so that I can step into my cave, in a few days, like bank alerts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I have such a hard relationship with fall. I feel like fall is like grief to me, and I've avoided winter. I'm not a cold weather person. I've avoided winter successfully over 13 years.
Oh, like literally, because you're a nomadic.
Like legit.
Yeah.
I leave here the first sign of snow. And I lived in Louisiana for 8 years, so
wow. Yeah.
I really haven't had winter.
Yeah.
But it applies to life, right? We, in society and norms, we have a really hard time prioritizing, and we have a really hard time putting stuff aside to rest and to maybe a lot of folks struggle with the little tasky admin shit like you were talking about. It takes a lot of internal safety and trust and dialogue to do admin for a lot of folks. It's so much more fun to, be the social butterfly and have all the new creative ideas, but actually bringing them to life or to nurture them takes work. And so,
well, if we think about like the archetypes of the zodiac, right, it aligns perfectly. We're talking Aries energy versus Virgo energy. And we all contain all of these archetypes, and they're all strengths that we all have. But, Virgo does the harvest. And like we would not have food for the winter if the Virgos didn't bring in the harvest, right? And put things to bed and gather it up and let things end and take stock, and all that so that the Aries can begin with their like fun exuberance. It's all cyclical, like all of these archetypes, and we all carry all of them. And it doesn't mean you're not being you. I feel like this happens like you said, like the lie of linear thinking is like oh, this is the person I am and this is how I always will be. When like that might not be what the season of, the time of year dictates, the season of your life, the time of day. Consistency just isn't an ideal I'm interested in and it's just not real. We have to allow ourselves to change. And there are times where you're a party animal and there are times where you don't want to see a person. And that's just being a human because we are multitudes. We're carrying all of these things within us all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like the luteal phase or the fall or whatever season that you have to take stock and take care. Each season, I think, has different needs. When we acknowledge that each season has a different need, that's, to me, truly consistent because you're just being in tune with yourself and your needs and giving them to yourself.
Each season has a need. I love that. Yeah. And a way of being, even. I would say, like, a way of being in that season. Yeah, right now we're recording this for, like, top of summer. Energy's low but relaxed. And that's what this time of the year and of our lives requires.
Yeah. And then the intersection and layered upon that of, like, I'm right now just on ovulating and going into my luteal phase right now. And then then we have our ages, like I'm 30 and you said you're 45. And, we talked a little bit about like reparenting. Like I think of time as generational, like our parents and money is generational, right? Intergenerational wealth is transferred down. And how we're taught about these resources we're taught to our parents by theirs and then their parents by theirs. And so it really is coming back to the cyclical nature of we can approach our age, our day-to-day, our monthly cycles, our weekly cycles. Like there's so many cycles that we can play around with and see which ones we connect with and want to sort of help guide us and help us, live.
And I love how like the tool we always have is to check in with the body, right? It's that present moment focus that like we all know we should do, but it really is right there. I've even taught my kids to do muscle testing, do yes, no, and the body knows, right? Like, do I need a milkshake right now? Like your body knows actually. Like my kids have been really successfully doing this. And it's so good. They do it better than I do. It's so great. And they remind me to do it.
Sweet.
Actually, the body knows when it's time to act, time to not, right? It actually, you can ask yourself pretty binary questions, even on complex things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get to just decide what external information we want to help us along the way.
And people and resources and community and all of that. Like if you're feeling alone with this, if, feeling shame about, oh, I'm not consistent or shame about money, like, yeah, we're not alone. We're not alone. We're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
I love your thoughts about the lies that we're told and the great lies that we tell ourselves about linear thinking and about finite resources and all of that. And yeah, I'm going to think about that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that was like a profound realization that I feel like has been like on the tip of my tongue for a while now.
Oh, cool.
You
said it.
So thank you.
Lovely. Right. Are you a verbal processor? I'm a verbal processor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why people like us make podcasts.
Yes. I'm like constantly voice memoing people. I just like stay talking.
Stay talking. Well, I hope we stay talking, Becca.
Sweet. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Wow, I loved my conversation with Becca. I'd never thought about the interplay of money and time, thinking about those things cyclically before. It gave me so much to think about, and since our conversation, I've already experienced a little more spaciousness in my own life and sort of noticing how cycles work. I'm curious, what did this bring up for you? Does it help you think of time as a different kind of resource? One that is not linear. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave me a voicemail. I'll answer on a future podcast or just answer you directly. Go on over to moneyhealingclub.com/podcast and you can just leave your little old voicemail right there. Don't worry, I'll make you sound good. I'd love to hear your thoughts and let me know what other topics would you like me to cover. Thanks for being here and I'll see you next time.